Welcome back. We're going to be doing a very interesting SolidWorks design today, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, you should have done Modeling Learning Assignment 1 at this point. Modeling Learning Assignment 2 is a lot like 1, except for that it's 2. So we'll jump into it. I'm going to go ahead and do a new file, pop in her, and we're going to do a part again. We haven't gotten into assemblies yet. We're not going to get into assemblies for a little bit. That'll be for another day. We'll create a simple assembly. Right now I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the more complex features that you can add in SolidWorks. We've done the boss base extrusion, boss base cut, but there's a few other things that I think you need to know about before we really move on and start talking about dimensioning and start talking about assemblies and start talking about how to do different types of section views, etc., etc. So first thing we're going to do is once again we're going to create a new sketch on a plane. Here I'm old school and I like drawing in the top plane because for me I'm weird like that. A lot of people like drawing in the front plane because I believe the front plane is the more XY origin set. So here, yeah, XY is the front plane. I just like top plane. I don't know why I like thinking that I'm looking from the top down. If you like doing it on the front plane, you can. How you do your orientation does matter when you make different parts, but we'll get into that when we start talking about assemblies. So here, what I'm going to do for my base, I'm going to make a hinge this round. I'm going to start with one corner at the origin, just draw it up like this. Now you'll see right now that when I hit escape and get out of this, this coincident point pops up because I started drawing it at the origin. Basically it just means that this corner of my hinge is at the origin and it's pretty much fixed there. Now I'm going to throw some dimensions on this. Here my hinge is going to be 4 inches long by 2 inches wide. So this will be 4. That's interesting. And then this over here. Oh, looks like I clicked a point. Oh no, my SolidWorks is just going really slow. Click on this edge, draw it out, and this will be 2 inches. Hit enter, and now you'll notice this is fully constrained. It's these, because I drew a rectangle, these constraints already popped up. Like I said, you can play around with all of these. Make sure that when you leave your exit your sketch, that your sketch is fully defined. So just one thing to check. So I'm going to go ahead and hit exit sketch. Now I still have sketch 1 selected, and here I'm going to go in and do a quick boss base extrude. And when I do that, let's see, we're going to go up, I'll make it about 1/8 of an inch, 0.125 inches, hit OK. And so now I have the base for my part. I'm going to be working off of this. I'm going to create a piece of a hinge here, and then I've got to drill 5 holes in this. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to create holes. Now there is a way to do it with something that's called a hole wizard. If you do click on this, I think it actually requires you to have a sketch with points drawn up, but it allows you to specify different types of holes. Here, most holes are done with countersinks, so you would have selected that one. As far as the positions of it, I just pick a point here and then it wants me to sketch on here. I would actually prefer to do a real sketch. But that is one way to do it. You can use the hole wizard. Personally, I like also using the extruded cut. Well, you know what? We'll try using the hole wizard because it's interesting. An extruded cut we did last time, so hole wizard is just a little more special. Here you get to pick the size. Here, mine are apparently already in metric. And here you can select a length, offset from surface, through all, blind, if you wanted to go a certain distance. Here I wanted to go through all just because in a hinge it always goes through all. And I will pick a, I don't know why everything I have is in metric right now. It's supposed to be IPS system, but oh well, I guess we're just doing metric holes. This would be a 3mm diameter. 3mm diameter is approximately 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to do an M6. It's approximately 1/4 of an inch. That's a little bit bigger. So here I will select this face, and then what it's going to do is it's going to ask me to put down a bunch of holes and then position them. So I will do that. Put down 5 like that. I'm going to quickly zoom up here, pan over, do some dimensions. Come on, let me pan. Come on. There we go. A little bit of panning. My SolidWorks doesn't exactly enjoy working while I'm streaming. I'm going to go ahead and put this in a 1/2 inch from the edge. Whoa. Again, SolidWorks is not liking me. So 1/2 inch from the edge. I'll hit OK. And then it's basically just what it's doing is it's forcing me to create a sketch here. So what I'll do is I'll add some relations, and then I will select this point, and this point, all of which I added, and I'm just going to make them horizontal. What that does is it means that now I don't have to dimension the horizontal position there. I'll hit OK. I'm going to do something very special, and I'm going to draw a line. It's going to go from this point to this point, and then I want to draw another one to this point. Okay, I'll hit escape, and then I'm going to select this line and say it's for construction, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. It's for construction. Okay. Now you'll notice these lines are already coming in as horizontal, and that's just because of the relations that got set up. I could have just drawn in the lines and hit horizontal there, and that would have done it. I am going to add a relation between this line and this line, and I'm going to make them equal. What that'll do is it'll say that they're equal length to each other, and then I'll hit OK. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I need to select the center point here. I'm going to add a relation where I want this point, which is in the center, and this point, which is also in the center. Oop, I've already got those selected. I've got my 2 points. I want them to be vertical. And you'll notice that the moment I did that, it did not like this. So, oh, it's because I accidentally selected that point. We'll go ahead and delete that relationship. Then I got to figure out which one of these points is which. So I'm going to deselect that one and reselect that point, load up here, and I guess that's selecting the edge. Pull out of, ooh, gross. That doesn't quite do it either. Delete. And hit Control Z. Control Z. Hope that fixes it. Yeah, there we go. And then we'll just delete this out and get out of the add relations box. Another way I can do that, which is probably a better way of doing it. SolidWorks doesn't always like working with actual features, even though it recognizes that's a point. It doesn't doesn't recognize it when it comes to relations. So if I draw a line, I click on this line, I'm going to make it be for construction, and then set this to be vertical. And that'll do everything I wanted it to do. So construction lines do help. Now the length of that line is going to be 1/2 inch, which is fine. Fine and dandy. Now you'll notice that I can grab these points and move them in. Both of them will move in. So I need to kind of specify a distance for that line. But before I do that, I'm going to draw from this midpoint down to this point right here. And then I'm going to draw, let's see, no, we'll just do another line from this midpoint down to this point right here. Okay. SolidWorks is just being slow. There we go. Okay. Now, just to add some quick relations, I'm going to make this for construction, vertical. Whoa. Oh, I've got the midpoint. Defining midpoint is for construction, make it vertical. There we go. Okay, and I'll run over here and grab this line. Want to be vertical. Want to be for construction. And I'll hit OK. So now these are forced to be in the center. So if I grab onto this and I say, well, I want to shrink my hole locations, I can actually set that. Everything will be based off of one dimension here. So that's nice. So then what I will do quickly is I could set these to be horizontal to each other. That's one way of doing it, but I'm going to add a relation between this line. I don't know what point 1 is. So this line and this line, and I'm just going to have these be equal. So they'll be the same distance away from the midpoint there. Hit OK. Now, if I grab onto this point here, you'll notice I can move it all over. I have a lot of flexibility as far as where I move it. I need to actually put in some dimensions now. So I'll dimension this line. And we'll say that this is 1/2 inch, or 3/4 of an inch. I like 3/4 of an inch. 0.75. Okay, that does part of it. Now I also need to dimension this distance here. And I'm probably going to set this as 1.25 inches. So there's a little bit of a spread there. Well, that's a nice hinge plate. So now when I go to hit yes, it'll accept these and it'll build my hinge holes. And they're already countersunk according to how it has fit. Now you'll notice that it comes up in the part tree as saying that it is an M6 countersunk a hole. And that's the relations we have. Now we have all these lines that are up here. Those are all for construction. If you just click away from it, they disappear. Because that sketch that we did, I don't know what that sketch is, but the sketch that we did, sketch 4, that is saved as a part of this piece here, specifically to identify those point locations. Now you can do it by setting up a sketch, and instead of doing this, you can put in points instead of building it the way that we built it, but well, the way that we did it works. So now we have our hinge plate. Now the last piece about a hinge is that it has to have a little curl to it to connect to a hinge pin. So there are two pieces to this. You could either draw the one that's, because there's 5 fingers, basically have 3 fingers on one side and 2 fingers on another, so between them, 5 hinge fingers kind of things that interlock like this. So what we'll be doing is we're just going to pick one, either the 2 or the 3. The 3 is a little easier to draw. So, whoa. Show my Streamlabs setup real quick for some reason. But we're going to go ahead and draw that one because it's a little easier. So now the way that I'm going to do this is that I am going to use the revolve feature on this one because it gives us a kind of a unique feature that that we can use. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go sketch. I'm going to do a sketch, and I actually want to sketch on this face right there. Okay, so, oh, apparently I just selected it. I need to hit actual sketch, and then click on that face. Now you'll notice the sketch opens up. We are currently in the sketch, which is why you see exit sketch up here. I'm going to do my view orientation. So I'm going to click normal too. So it'll just take me down to this face. This shows me where the origin is for this drawing, so I'm going to use some kind of a relationship to build that. Now I'm going to build a hinge. It's going to go from here up to this top surface, which I can select that top surface. You'll notice that coincident pops up, and then I have pretty much everything fully defined. The only piece is I need to define this blue feature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line quickly, and I'm going to make this be a construction line. And I'm going to draw. Oh, come on. Apparently I need to remind SolidWorks. I want a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I screwed up. I didn't make that horizontal. So now I have 5 segments to a line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select, let's see if I can select all of them at once. And yep, now I can add relations between them. I'm going to make them all be horizontal. And I'm going to make them all be equal length. Okay. So that's how I do that. That's how I roll. So now if I stretch one, I stretch all of them. What I will do is I'm going to make this point. I'm going to hold down Control, click on this point. So now you'll notice I have 2 points selected, and then I will hit merge, which is the same thing as coincident. Now I will pan over, hit escape, and then I will click this point, and then I will hit Control and click over here on this point, which is a vertex, and I will make them be coincident. Now that will actually fully define this entire line. What I've done is I've broken this section up into 5 individual lines like so. Oh, one last piece. I need to select all of those lines. scroll down and make them for construction. For construction just means it helps you build your drawing. So now that I've set it up into 5 equal sections, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this point, hit Control, select this point, and make them merge, which makes them coincident. Hit OK. And now my rectangle is fully defined. I didn't have to put in any dimensions here. So if I change the dimensions on this hinge at all, it will automatically break this into a 5-fingered piece. And if I need to make it a 4-fingered piece, I would adjust these lines so that there's only 4 of them. I basically just delete this one and then make this one and that point merge, and it would automatically fix itself. Now there is a little bit of a gap between the hinge pieces, but I would do that in a little bit of post-processing later. You can always address things on the front end, or you can address things on the back end, and I'm someone who would prefer to address some of these things later. So now that I have this rectangle, I will hit Exit Sketch and just pray that it actually exits the sketch. Please. Please do what I want you to do. All right, there we go. So now we have a rectangle, we have our construction line. Now, before I can really do what I want to do, I have to create an axis. Oh, that's a plane. I vibrate when I click buttons, so no, I do not want to plane. I do want an axis. Okay, so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, how do I define an axis? Well, there are these 5 different ways of doing it. If you have 2 planes that you have set up, the intersection of those 2 planes is always going to form a straight line, and you can create an axis from there. Here, if you have 2 points that are identified, you can create an axis from that. If you have a line that's drawn, you can do that. Similarly, if you have a point and a face, the intersection of a point and a face can produce a line, because a perpendicular from a face to a point generates a line. Similarly, you can also create an axis from a cylinder, because that's the central axis to it. So how am I going to create an axis that I can rotate around? Well, I actually do need to create a face first. So I'm going to create a plane. And my first reference is going to be the top here. And then I'm just going to make this be offset from this face. You'll notice you have 5 options when you go to make a plane. You can make it parallel, which means that you need another defining feature, which would mean you have to add a second reference. You can make it perpendicular, which is great, but you would have to add a second reference, something, a line or a point that would be in the plane to define where it is, kind of inside of that. You can make it coincident. This would fully define it, because it basically just says make a plane that is exactly on par with this face. You can make it at a fixed angle, one direction or another. Or lastly, you can set it at an offset distance. And so what I want is, I want it to be at an offset distance. We're going to be using probably a 3/8 inch bolt. So the offset distance that I'm going to use is 3/16 inch. Okay, and you'll notice again that this says fully defined. So I don't need to identify a second reference or a third reference here. I can just hit OK, and I have this plane. Okay, now why did I do that? Well, because the intersection of this plane and this, a plane that goes through this face right here, that's the axis that I want to rotate around. So I'm going to create one more plane, except I currently have that plane selected. I don't want that plane, I want this face right there. And this one wants me to offset it by 3/16 of an inch. I just want it to be coincident, which will set it as fully defined. So I hit OK. Now the intersection of this plane up here and plane 2 is going to form a line. So if I go in here and I click axis, this will allow me to, with the 2 planes that I picked, generate an axis. And there's the yellow line that I can rotate about. So I'll hit OK. And now we have an axis. And then I can click on these because I really only needed them for one specific feature. I click on them and I can hide them so that I don't have to look at their existences. You served your purpose. Alright, now lastly what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a revolved boss base. Now you can do a revolved cut. It works very similar to a revolved boss base. It's the difference between extrusion and the cut. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hit Revolve Boss Base. I'm going to go in here and select my rectangle, one of my lines of my rectangle. No, I don't want you to automatically try to do that. I'm going to click on Sketch. No. This is only trying to do one line of that sketch. So I have to open up my part tree, go down and select sketch 6. And sketch, oh wait, no. My bad. I need to pick axis 1 there. Selected contours. Here's where I go down here and select sketch 6. Come on. Come on, SolidWorks. It's just slow. This is usually where I engage in weird, awkward conversation. It even recognizes it. It just doesn't. SolidWorks is just being weird. Come on, sketch 6. I'm gonna go in here. Okay, so it's going to actually make me select the region instead of the sketch. Now, the hinge itself doesn't go all the way around. It only ends up going at about maybe a 240 degree angle, or maybe a 290 degree angle. So I'm going to shift this and set this at 290 degrees. Hit enter, and now you'll notice it went the wrong way. And I do want this to merge results, so what it'll do is it'll add this as a part of this part. But it went the wrong way. I don't want it to go that way. So if I go in here, and because this is a blind revolution, remember you have these offsets, you can up to surface, up to vertex. Here blind just allows you to do a certain angle. I'm going to go ahead and flip the direction. So here now it's going the other way. And 290 degrees looks about right for this. And I've got my axis set. So I'll just hit OK. I did most of the work here beforehand. But now I need to have 3 of these to make a full hinge. So how do I add the other 2? Well, this is where we use another feature that's called the linear pattern. So I'm going to go click on linear pattern. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select Revolve 1. Oh, shoot. That has to be in the faces and features. Okay, now Revolve 1 is selected, so I have the whole feature selected. And then what I'm going to do is direction 1. I'm going to pick direction 1. I'm actually going to extrude it along this axis. I only want to have 3 total incidents. And instead of doing a spacing, I'm going to see if I can't do up to reference and go to this line. I think you can. spacing and instances would be probably more appropriate. I want it to be 3, enter. I don't want it to be three instances though. I don't want it to be like 42. Oh, right. Up to feature, up to this edge here. Whoa. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's just identifying this piece way out there. Yeah. So a linear pattern is one way of doing it. If you want to identify a certain number of spaces, and go ahead and do that. But I'm trying to do this in a way that if I adjusted this hinge, or if I wanted to change this hinge at all, I could go back and well, I could do that. So actually what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to use a mirror pattern, which will allow me to take this one and flip it over to the other side. So here I've already got the features to mirror. The mirror face or plane, well, I don't have a face or plane, so I will have to set up a mirror plane there. So I'm actually going to set up 2 different planes. Now for a first reference, you'll remember that the origin for this entire part is right there. So if I go look at the right plane, I just select right plane, and I want it to be parallel to the right plane, but I want it to be here. Oh, that's, oops. Oh yeah, I want it to be coincident. I guess I could have just said, yeah, never mind. I'm just going to set that equal to, instead of parallel to the right plane, I'm just going to set that, grab that face, and hit coincident. And then that will fully define that plane. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create a mid-plane between these 2 pieces so that that can serve as the kind of the mirror point for that feature. So go into reference geometry, create a new plane. Mid-plane. I actually know what the mid-plane does. That's interesting. Second reference here, I'm going to use the right plane. And so having set mid-plane, having picked the right plane and that plane, I can now set a plane in the exact middle. And I don't have to give a dimension for that, which is nice. So now when I go to do a mirror, I can mirror this feature around plane 4, which is my mid-plane, and you'll notice it already lines it up there. I don't have to give dimensions. If I change the dimension of this hinge, it will automatically adjust that. Now you have to do this once more to create a plane so that I can put one right in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to reference geometry, go into plane, and select plane 4. I'm going to hit mid-plane. It's going to make me pick a second reference plane, and then I'll go back and I will select the right plane. And then that is now fully defined. Good to go. And now that I have 10,000 different planes, what fun we're having. I'm going to do one more mirror about this plane. So the feature to mirror, I want to be this revolve 1. That looks interesting. Huh. That's interesting. I would have thought that would have worked. Apparently not. I need it to be a third of the way. Dang it. Oh, here, I thought I was so clever with that too. Ah, drat. Oh well. I'm going to delete plane 5. Alright, so basically I just need to take one more, put it right there, and I want to do it in a way where I'm not putting in a lot of different measurements. But I may not be able to do that. I may have to actually specify a distance. Ah, sigh. Although, there's another way I could do this. I could establish a plane on this face here. No, I'm not trying to select the axis. This face here, I want to do a midplane to this face here. Fully defined. Now I have a plane that goes down the center line of that part. And what I will do is I will define a midplane that goes between this one and this one. And that should give me an axis to extrude along. So plane 6, midplane, plane 4. Okay. So now I have plane 7. I'm going to take this, hide it, just because it starts getting confusing. I could start naming some of these, but what's the fun in that? So I'm going to do a quick mirror. And I'm going to use this face. I'm going to mirror this feature and hit OK. And now it's directly in the center of everything. So now, the way that I designed this, because I didn't have to use dimensions, the nice piece is, I'm going to go hide this quick, that the way that I have this dimension, I can go back to my original piece and, gonna scroll over. And the way that I designed this part, I can go in and edit this, and I can make my hinge 1 inch longer. And now when I exit sketch, what you'll notice is that the entire thing rebuilds. The hinge sizes are still correct. The hole locations, I preset those so they are a certain distance away from each other. If I really wanted to make them wider to better use this space, I could. I'd rather not. But I still have my hinge design, and what I could do is I could copy this part, make the other part, and then make sure to change the definition so I'm extruding off of this second instead of the first one, which is what I did. And then I would only have to mirror across the center to have my other hinge piece. And then I would have a fully functional hinge. So now that I've got this, we'll go ahead and file save this. And this file I'm just going to save as MLA2. Just because why be creative? Creativity has never been a strong suit of mine. Then I will go up into File, New, and I'm going to pop up a new drawing. Now, similar to the way that we did it last time, I'm just going to create a very simple drawing. I'm not going to step through any of the dimensioning or really anything. I'm going to kind of work through this quickly because we did cover a lot of this in the last video. And the purpose of this video isn't really to prove that you know how to do dimensions and everything. It's just to show me that you understand the drawing process. So having picked that, I hit OK. I'm going to make sure to update my title block. But once I update my title block, it's going to want me to put in MLA2 immediately because I already have that file open. So oh, I have to select it. Oh man, my SolidWorks is slow. So do my 3 projected views and then my isometric view here, and then I will hit OK. I'll grab my isometric view, move it to a nicer location. Oh no, I moved you over there. Come on, SolidWorks. Such a memory hog. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, because I drew it on a top plane, SolidWorks prefers you draw on the front plane. I'm just going to switch the view orientation, which is going to switch the views of all of these. So here I'm going to switch this to front, just like that. So this would be a top view, front view, side view, and this would be my regular view. What I am going to do on these is I'm going to, instead of doing just a simple line view, which is what it has, I wanted to show hidden lines. So kind of give some axis representation there, and I'm going to do the same thing on this projected view. If you zoom in, it actually shows the countersink holes and how they're drilled. So there we go. And then last step, well, second to last step, I'll pick this, shade this, and then I'm going to edit my sheet pieces. So here we'll give this name of drawing. I'm going to call it MLA 2 hinge. For the description, a regular 5-screw hinge. Okay, this is today's date. To edit the drawn by, I have to go into File, Properties, and make CJS be the author. And that will pop up there. And then all I have to do is go ahead and hit, we're just going to print this sheet, so I'll go File, Print, print to PDF, hit OK. And then I'm just going to save this as MLA 2. And that's it. There is your second modeling learning assignment. We drew a hinge. What fun. And we did some fun things in the process. So that was just a little bit of work with different types of features that are available in SolidWorks and getting a little bit more complex geometry, trying to position everything. Here I'm trying to use good drawing principles where I don't just use dimensions to identify the locations of everything, but I actually use relations. Because by doing so, it allows the drawing to be much more changeable. Rather than have somebody completely redraw this piece from the ground up, they can just change a few dimensions if they need to modify it, or if they want to make a brand new part that's very similar to it, they can copy it, paste it, and then make a few changes to that, and then you have 2 different parts that you have to do minimal amount of work on. Setting up a part that is well dimensioned, that is anticipating change in the future, that is good SolidWorks design. So All right, that's it.